What would you do if the place you called home turned against you in a single fiery moment? At Ranch Lake, where the water mirrors the sky and the community hums with quiet order, I thought I'd found peace. My name is Elias Harper, a retired mechanic who'd traded city noise for the soft lapping of waves and a small boat I'd poured my savings into. That boat, my Elysium, was my escape, my sanctuary until the HOA decided it was an eyesore and set it ablaze. What they didn't know was that it wasn't just my boat. It was part of a $3 million U.S. Navy program, and the truth behind it would unravel everything. Ranch Lake was a postcard-perfect community in Virginia, with manicured lawns and white picket fences. The HOA, led by Margaret Voss, a woman with a smile as sharp as a blade, enforced rules with an iron grip. No loud music, no unapproved paint colors, and certainly no boats docked without permission. I'd moved here after my wife, Clara, passed, hoping the lake's calm would soothe the ache she'd left behind. The Elysium was more than wood and fiberglass. It was my way of keeping her close, painted in her favorite shade of blue, with her initials carved into the helm. I docked the Elysium at the community pier, unaware of the HOA's labyrinth of regulations. The first warning came in a crisp envelope, signed by Margaret herself: unauthorized vessel. Remove within 48 hours or face consequences. I tried to comply, but the nearest marina was miles away, and my truck was in the shop. I pleaded with Margaret at the next HOA meeting, my voice cracking as I explained the boat's sentimental value. She stared through me, her eyes cold. Rules are rules, Mr. Harper. We maintain standards here. Days later, I woke to the smell of smoke and the wail of sirens. From my porch, I saw flames licking the night sky, my Elysium engulfed at the dock. Neighbors gathered, whispering, as firefighters battled the blaze. Margaret stood among them, her face unreadable. I ran toward the pier, heart pounding, but the boat was already a skeleton of char. Who did this? I shouted, my voice raw. No one answered, but a neighbor, Tom Grayson, pulled me aside. The HOA voted last night, he muttered. They said it was a safety hazard. I didn't think they'd go this far. Fury burned hotter than the flames. I confronted Margaret the next morning, demanding answers. She claimed the fire was an accident, a controlled burn gone wrong to clear debris near the dock. But her voice faltered, and I knew she was lying. I wasn't just grieving a boat. I was grieving Clara all over again. I vowed to uncover the truth, even if it meant tearing apart the HOA's pristine facade. I started digging, combing through HOA records at the community center. The documents were a maze of jargon, but one name kept appearing: Dr. Evelyn Chan, a scientist who'd lived in Ranch Lake years ago. She'd leased the Elysium to me through a third party, claiming it was her late husband's. I'd never questioned it, assuming it was a standard sale. But the records hinted at something else. Evelyn had ties to a classified Navy project, and the Elysium was listed as government property in a buried footnote. I tracked down Evelyn, now living in a small apartment an hour away. She was a frail woman with sharp eyes and a nervous habit of twisting her wedding ring. When I mentioned the Elysium, her face paled. You weren't supposed to know, she whispered. She revealed the boat was part of a Navy experiment, a prototype for a stealth surveillance vessel equipped with tech worth millions. The HOA's fire hadn't just destroyed my property, it had obliterated a government asset. Evelyn had leased it to me to keep it hidden after the program was defunded, hoping to protect it from bureaucratic scrapping. I thought it was safe with you, she said, tears welling. I didn't know the HOA would. The twist came when I learned who'd tipped off the HOA: Tom Grayson, the neighbor who'd seemed so sympathetic. He wasn't just a bystander. He was Margaret's cousin, planted to keep tabs on troublemakers like me. Tom had overheard me talking about the boat's history at a bar and fed it to Margaret, who saw it as leverage to assert her control. The fire wasn't an accident, it was a power play, a message to anyone who dared defy her rules. But they hadn't counted on the Navy's involvement or my stubbornness. I contacted a Navy liaison, Commander Rachel Ortiz, who confirmed the Elysium's role in their program. The boat's tech was meant to monitor coastal threats undetected, a project abandoned when funding ran dry. Rachel was furious, not at me, but at the HOA's reckless destruction. "This is bigger than a boat," she said. "That fire compromised national security." She promised an investigation, but warned me to stay quiet. The Navy didn't want a public scandal. I couldn't stay silent. I went to the next HOA meeting, armed with Evelyn's confession and Rachel's contact. The room fell silent as I laid out the truth. Margaret's controlled burn had destroyed a $3 million Navy asset. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Tom tried to slip out, but neighbors blocked his path, their trust in the HOA crumbling. Margaret's composure cracked, her voice shrill as she denied everything. "This is absurd. It was just a boat," she snapped. But the evidence was undeniable, and the Navy's investigation loomed. For a moment, I felt vindicated. The HOA was exposed, Margaret's reign was over, and Tom faced consequences for his betrayal. But as I stood on the pier that night, staring at the blackened spot where the Elysium once floated, victory tasted like ash. The boat wasn't just a Navy prototype. It was my last tie to Clara. Every memory of our laughter, our quiet moments on the water had burned with it. The Navy offered compensation, but no money could replace what I'd lost. Evelyn, racked with guilt, moved away, unable to face the community's judgment. Rachel's investigation swept through Ranch Lake, leaving lawsuits and fractured friendships in its wake. The HOA dissolved, and Margaret vanished, rumored to have fled to avoid charges. But the lake no longer felt like home. Neighbors avoided my gaze, ashamed of their silence. I'd won the fight, but at what cost? The Elysium was gone, and with it, the peace I'd sought. I packed my bags, ready to leave Ranch Lake behind, but not before scattering Clara's favorite wildflower seeds into the water. Maybe something beautiful could grow from this ruin. As I drove away, the lake gleamed in my rearview mirror, serene and indifferent. The HOA had burned my boat, but the real fire was the greed, the control, the betrayal that tore a community apart. I'd uncovered the truth, but it hadn't set me free. It had only shown me how fragile sanctuary can be, how quickly trust can turn to ash. And somewhere, in the Navy's classified files, the Elysium's secrets sank deeper, lost to the flames. ND.